Venezuela strikes a blow. It displays its Russian S-400 anti-aircraft system and sparks panic in the United States. In a move that took military analysts, regional governments, and Western intelligence agencies by surprise, Venezuela publicly unveiled its Russian S-400 Triumph air defense system, considered one of the most powerful defensive systems on the planet. The announcement, broadcast on national television and immediately reported by international media, provoked swift reactions in Washington, where senior officials described the deployment as a significant disruption to the strategic balance of the hemisphere. Images released by the Venezuelan Ministry of Defense showed the complete system. Active phased radars, mobile launchers, command centers, and, most notably, a tactical simulation where operators demonstrated the S-400's target acquisition speed. According to the official account, the system was installed in strategic areas of the national territory, although without revealing the specific coordinates. What truly set off alarm bells in the United States was not just the presence of the system, but the speed with which Venezuela managed to activate it. Leaked reports suggest that Russian advisors had arrived months earlier to conduct intensive training, enabling Venezuelan operators to handle a system capable of detecting stealth aircraft, high-altitude drones, and even short-range ballistic missiles. Furthermore, military sources close to the Venezuelan government have reportedly hinted at the possibility of integrating the S-400 with Russian satellite surveillance systems creates a defensive corridor that significantly extends detection range. According to analysts in Washington, this means that any U.S., allied, or contractor military aircraft operating near the Caribbean would now be under constant surveillance by a Moscow ally. In interviews, several former U.S. Air Force officers indicated that, while the system does not match American technological dominance, it does introduce a new element into the dynamics. Regional. It's not that Venezuela is now an air power, one of them pointed out, but by deploying a system capable of tracking even an F-35, it sends a clear message: any such an incursion would have a much greater political and military cost. The impact in Latin America was immediate. Governments in the region expressed concern about a possible increase in military tensions, while others interpreted it as a sign that Venezuela seeks to consolidate a robust defensive position against external threats. What is clear is that the deployment of the S-400 is not a mere military gesture. It is a direct message. Venezuela wants to be taken seriously, and the presence of the Russian system is transforming the international perception of its defensive capabilities. The strategic tranquility in the Caribbean appears to have come to an end. The White House reacted swiftly. Just hours after the Venezuelan announcement, the Department of Defense held a press conference in which high-ranking officials acknowledged that the S-400 deployment represents a significant operational challenge to U.S. air missions in the Caribbean and the South Atlantic. Although the Pentagon avoided using terms like direct threat, the concern was evident. What truly worries Washington is the system's range. The S-400 can detect targets at over 600 kilometers and shoot down aircraft at distances exceeding 380 kilometers, depending on the type of missile used. This means that portions of international airspace previously considered safe practice or transit zones for U.S. aircraft could now be under active surveillance. Recent leaks indicate that U.S. electronic intelligence units detected anomalous spikes in the radar spectrum emanating from Venezuela days before the official announcement, suggesting that the system was undergoing secret testing. This point is key because it demonstrates that the South American country not only possesses the S-400, but has also managed to integrate it operationally without the United States being able to anticipate it. Some North American media outlets describe the deployment as a Russian-assisted provocation, suggesting that Moscow was using Venezuela as a platform to test air defense tactics against Western aircraft. This aligns with expert analysis. Military officials claim the Caribbean could become a geopolitical laboratory to study the behavior of U.S. F-35s, P-8 Poseidons, and strategic drones against advanced Russian systems. In parallel, the Pentagon ordered a complete review of the air routes used by aircraft off reconnaissance and patrol. Although not confirmed, some missions are speculated to involve reconnaissance and patrol. They were temporarily removed from the area to avoid being tracked or recorded by the S-400, which for many is interpreted as an implicit recognition of the power of the system. Meanwhile, in Caracas, the government celebrated the international repercussions as a triumph. Diplomatic officials asserted that the deployment's purpose is purely defensive, intended to protect sovereign airspace against any external aggression. However, the political message is clear. Venezuela now feels capable of challenging regional air superiority. The situation has created an atmosphere of calculated tension. Neither Venezuela wants to escalate the conflict, nor does the United States want a Russian ally to control one of the hemisphere's strategic corridors. But the mere fact that the S-400 is operational introduces a new level of military complexity. The regional landscape has changed, and now everyone is watching to see what Washington will do. Will it increase its military presence, strengthen alliances, or pursue a diplomatic solution? The only certainty is that the Venezuelan S-400 is here to stay, and its impact is only just beginning. The deployment of the S-400 in Venezuela has not only raised alarms in the United States, but has also reshaped the strategic perception of the Caribbean. For the first time in decades, a long-range air defense system capable of engaging fifth-generation aircraft is operating in the Western Hemisphere under the control of a country aligned with Moscow. This marks a turning point. With the new system deployed, U.S. air maneuvers can no longer be carried out with the same freedom. Experts point out that the Caribbean, traditionally, once considered a safe space for testing and U.S. military transit, it could now be under constant electronic surveillance. This change not only reduces maneuverability, but it places Venezuela in an unexpected position of strategic influence. However, beyond the military aspects, the psychological impact is one of the most relevant factors. The message Venezuela is sending is clear. It possesses the technological capacity and the political will to protect its airspace against any attempt at intimidation. The released images of the system operating at night, detecting simulated targets, and the presence of Russian advisors at the bases reinforce the narrative of a country seeking to reposition itself on the international stage. Reactions in the United States reflect a growing internal debate. Some sectors are calling for increased diplomatic and economic pressure to prevent Venezuela from acquiring more Russian military technology. Others suggest a more cautious approach, fearing that an escalation could push the South American country further toward formal military alliances with Moscow. Uncertainty is also felt in neighboring countries. Colombia, Brazil, and the Caribbean nations are cautiously observing developments. While none have openly expressed military concerns, they have begun internal discussions about how this new air environment could affect trade routes, border surveillance, and cooperation with the United States. On the other hand, Russia celebrated the deployment as an achievement in its policy of strengthening alliances outside of Europe and Central Asia. According to analysts, the Kremlin seeks to establish nodes of influence in strategic regions where the United States maintains a dominant presence. With the activation of the S-400 in Venezuela, Moscow achieves a key geopolitical objective, an advanced system operating in Washington's backyard. But beyond politics and strategy, what we are witnessing today is a profound shift in the regional balance of power. Venezuela, propelled by its alliance with Russia, has achieved a milestone that few anticipated. The S-400 not only gives it defensive capabilities, but also elevates its position on the international stage, opening debates on security, sovereignty, and air power on the continent. And so, the Caribbean enters a new era. An era where the sky is no longer the exclusive domain of the traditional powers, but a space where new actors seek their place. If you enjoyed this series of episodes and want more impactful content, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming investigations and special reports. Your support drives this channel.